Welcome to Series 6, exploring Louisa May Alcott. It's Paul Medeiros coming to you today from New Bedford, Massachusetts, near my residence. Let's introduce ourselves to Louisa May Alcott. She's the author of novels and short stories. Her most famous novel is still admired today and represented today in film, in plays. Little Women, published in 1869. Louisa May Alcott is known as a daughter of transcendentalism. And as we learn from reading her works, she identifies as a tomboy, as a woman that finds in herself characteristics shared with men and boys. Louisa May Alcott was born in 1832 in Pennsylvania. By the time she was 2 years old, the family had moved to Boston. Her father, Amos Bronson Alcott, was interested in new education, like Henry Thoreau, an education that reaches the minds of children. We know that at about 2 years old, Louisa May Alcott herself entered a new kind of education. Her father wanted to develop self-denial or self-sacrifice in his children, and her father had some interesting exercises and disciplines that he imposed on his children. According to Elaine Showalter, who's the author of a biography in our biographies reader, Louisa May have felt sort of controlled or dominated by her father at a young age. And Showalter discusses their lifelong relationship in the biography. By the time Louisa May was an adult, she became interested in being a writer like Henry Thoreau and her father. And at the same time, for the rest of her life, she was also a committed family member. For her, supporting her family was an important reason why she was a writer. Louisa May Alcott never married, and we know very little about her romantic life. She also adopted the daughter of one of her sisters who had passed away. So for a period of her life, she was a mother. Let's hear some things about her father. As I mentioned, they were closely bound throughout life. They were born on the same day, and they also passed away almost on the same day. Amos Bronson Alcott was interested in new education. When he opened his school in Boston, he used Socratic examinations in teaching young students. When the family moved to Concord, Massachusetts, Amos Bronson Alcott became known as the philosopher of the town. He was interested in Plato, studied Plato, and like the medieval scholars, he combined ancient Greek philosophy with Christian faith. Amos Bronson Alcott took his interest in Plato out into the world, and from 1848 to 1875, he conducted Socratic conversations in different cities and towns throughout New England. Her father belonged to a movement called transcendentalism. Let me define for you transcendentalism. It is a community of spiritually minded writers, educators, and activists. It's a very general definition because there were many different transcendentalists. Henry Thoreau is also a transcendentalist, and we know that Henry Thoreau was very interested in like scientific observation, but transcendentalists like Alcott were more interested in sort of higher thinking, contemplating, for example, and philosophy. Louisa May Alcott herself was not a transcendentalist, and that's one of our interests in looking at Louisa May Alcott. She was an observer of the transcendentalists and in some ways rejected their ideas. And that's important to us because the transcendentalists were interested in the intellectual life. So from her, we can learn how to begin to question and examine the intellectual life. Let's summarize our two readings. Our first reading for this week is a document published in 1873 titled Transcendental Wild Oats. It describes an adventure in 1843, which many people admire and have studied, an effort at forming a cooperative farm. And there, Louisa May Alcott describes her experiences and observations as a 10-year-old girl of this experiment and its failure. Our second reading we'll be looking at this week and next week is titled Hospital Sketches, a complete book published in 1863. Hospital Sketches is based on the letters and journals of Louisa May Alcott while serving as a U.S. Army nurse. Louisa May reports her experiences and conclusions, some of which are pertinent to our topic, human life and the good life. There are 3 learning objectives to guide our reading of these documents. First learning objective: to understand Louisa May Alcott's objections to the intellectual life. Many of these objections are found in Transcendental Wild Oats. Second learning objective: to distinguish the concept of virtues from the concept of duties. Louisa May Alcott describes human goodness both in terms of virtues and in terms of duties, and we want to learn the difference between these two concepts. Third learning objective: to summarize Louisa May Alcott's proposals for good life, especially her commitment to serving others and her idea that experiences shape a life.